In this video, I'll give a quick introduction to the short story, One Good Story, That One, and then we'll work through the text together. I'll read short sections and then pause to ask you questions that'll hopefully help with your understanding and analysis of the story. So, as a quick introduction, let's start with the author, Thomas King. He was born in the United States. His mother was Greek. I think she worked in the aerospace industry. And his father was an indigenous man. He was Cherokee. And Thomas and his mother moved to Canada in the 1980s. And there he started a hugely celebrated, hugely prolific career as a Canadian writer, author, and even would be politician at times. Um, his early career was teaching and writing. And over the course of it, he's written 6 novels, 2 short story collections, 2 nonfiction books. The best known is The Inconvenient Indian. It was hugely popular, hugely celebrated, and actually became a documentary a couple of years ago. I think even his last novel, The Back of the Turtle, won the Governor's General Award, which is basically the biggest award for literature in Canada. And even he, like Thomas King, has been also given the Order of Canada, which is basically the biggest award you can win, period, in Canada. So hugely successful, hugely celebrated, just a great Canadian writer. And as we get into his short story, One Good Story, That One, I just want to pause for 1 second and talk about some of the language. So Thomas King, he's an Indigenous man. He writes about Indigenous issues, about Indigenous characters. And in this case, he uses the word Indian several times, and the narrator will use the word Indian. I will read it as he's written it, but I want to be clear when we're talking about this text and these characters, I'll reuse the word Indigenous in this case. So let's start the story. All right. You know, I hear this story up north. Maybe Yellowknife, that one, somewhere. I hear it maybe a long time. Old story, this one. 100 years, maybe more. Maybe not so long either, this story. Here's our first pause. Pause to think. What are you inferring about this narrator? So we've got one short snippet of this story. What assumptions do you have about this narrator? Like, who is telling this story? They start by saying, all right, which I think is kind of a casual, kind of conversational way to start a story. It kind of feels like you're already sitting there with them and they're sort of like, okay, let's go. But some of the other choices, like when he says, I hear it maybe a long time, or old story, this one. What do you notice about the language, about the structures, about the grammar? And what does that help you see or infer about the person telling the story, the narrator? Do you have a picture of this person in your head? We kind of have a picture of who this person might be. We'll continue on. So, they come to my place. Summer place, pretty good place, that one. Those ones, they come with Na Piao, my friend. Cool, on the river. Indians call him Ka Sin Ta, that river. Like if you did nothing but stand in one place all day and maybe longer. Ka Sin Ta also call Na Po. Na Piao knows that one, my friend. White men call him Saint Mary, but I don't know what that means. Maybe like Ka Sin Ta, maybe not. So there's another paragraph, a little bit more information. Maybe you're getting a better picture of the narrator, and I have a couple more questions. We met somebody else in this paragraph, Na Piao. So my question is, who was this? I go back and I read some. They say those ones, the people coming to the summer place, they come with Na Piao, my friend. There's our indication. Na Piao seems to be the narrator's friend. But then it says Indians call him Ka Sin Ta, that river. And I just want to pause here today. It says him, which I think for sometimes can make us feel like, is this another name for Na Piao? But Ka Sin Ta is the narrator's name for the river. He also calls the river Na Po. He also says the white people call it Saint Mary. So this river that the narrator's summer place is on is called Ka Sin Ta. And his friend Na Piao, is bringing someone down the river, down the Ka Sin Ta, to meet the narrator. Continuing. Napiao comes with those three. White men, those. No India man, no China man, no French men. Too bad, those. Sometimes the wind come along, say hello. Pretty fast, that one. Blow some things down on the river, that Ka Sin Ta. Sometimes he comes up too, pretty high. Moves things around, that Ka Sin Ta. Three men come to my summer place. Also my friend Napiao. Pretty loud talkers, those ones. One is big. I tell him maybe looks like Big Joe. Maybe not. Anyway, they come and Napiao too. Bring greetings. How are you? Many nice things they bring to says. Three, all white. Too bad, those. Ho, my friend says. Real nice day. Here's some tobacco. We'll pause again just to check in with the narrator for a second. How do you describe his tone? So, we talked about tone previously in the nonfiction unit, but how do you describe this person's, like the sound of their voice or their attitude towards what they're talking about? When they say, three men come to my summer place, pretty loud talkers, those ones. Does that have a certain tone connected to it? How does he maybe feel? Like, is this person especially, like earlier I said there's some, it's pretty casual. Even when he says things like anyway in the middle of this section, I think that continues the kind of casualness. But what else would you say about this narrator's tone? I think there's definitely humor in it as well. What else? What do you think about their tone? He continues. All those smile. Good teeth. Your friend Napiao, they says, that one says you tell a good story. You tell us your good story, they says, those ones. I tell Napiao, sit down, rest, eat something. Those three like to stand. Stand still. I think of Ka Sin Ta, as I told you. So I says to Napiao, Ka Sin Ta, in our language, and he laughed. Those three laughed too. Good teeth. White man, white teeth. I says to them, those ones stand pretty good. Napiao, my friend, says, tell these a good story. Maybe not too long, he says. Those ones pretty young. Go to sleep pretty quick. Anthropologist, That one has a camera. Maybe. Okay, I says, sit down. These are good men, my friend says. Those come a long ways from past Tapilusa. Call him Blind Man Cooley, too. Tapilusa means like a quiet place where the fish can rest. Deep, quiet place. Blind man maybe comes there later, to that place. Maybe fish. All right, how about a story, that one says. Sure, I says. Maybe about Jimmy runs the store near Two Bridges. His brother becomes dead and give Jimmy his car, but Jimmy never drives. Napiao hold his hands up pretty soft. My friend says, that good story, Jimmy in his car. These ones don't know Jimmy. Okay, I says. Tell about Billy Frank and the Dead River Pig. Funny story, that one. Billy Frank and the Dead River Pig. Pretty big pig. Billy small like Napiao, my friend. Hurt his back. Lost his truck. Those ones like old stories, says my friend. Maybe how the world was put together. Good Indian story, like that, Napiao says. Those ones have tape recorders, he says. Okay, I says. Have some tea. Stay awake. So, quick check-in. We're starting to go. The narrator, so maybe you have a better picture of who this person is in your head. And the question I have is then, who are the people that have visited? Like, who's sitting around in this room? We know his friend Napiao has brought three men, but did you pick up who they are and why they visited? I know he says they're anthropologists, meaning people who study people, mostly cultures and groups of people around the world. But why are they specifically here? You want to skim that section and think about why are these men specifically here? It's to hear a story, but what type of story? Like, what story would they want to hear from this person, from our narrator? He begins. Once upon a time. Those stories start like that, pretty much. Those ones start on time. Anyway, there was nothing. Pretty hard to believe that, maybe. You fellows keep listening, I says. Watch the floor. Be careful. No water, no land, no stars, no moon. None of those things. Must have a son someplace. Maybe not, can't say. No Indians are there once upon a time. Lots of air. Only one person walk around. Call him God. So they look around and there's nothing. No grass, no fish, no trees, no mountains, no Indian, like I says. No white man either. Those come later, maybe 100 years, maybe not. That one God walk around, but pretty soon they get tired. Maybe that one says, we'll get some stars. So he does. And then he says, maybe we should get a moon. So they get one of them too. Someone write all this down. I don't know. Lots of things left to get. Mialu, call her deer. Papepo, call her elk. Slingta, call her blue flower berry. Galing, call her moon. Sosika, call her flint. Amapo, call her dog. Bakozao, call her grocery store. Pete, pa, zaling, call her television. Pretty long list of things to get that. Too many. Maybe those ones say, how many more that one needs for world? So again, to pause for a second, my question is, based on this start of the story, there's a once upon a time, there's no moon, there's no stars, there's no sun. Well, maybe there's a sun, maybe not. But what type of story does this sound like? What type of story begins with, there was no moon, there was no stars, there was no earth, there was no people. And then there's the narrator's word, God. Maybe add some stars, adds a moon, adds an earth, adds a deer, adds an elk, adds a dog. What type of story is that? We'll come back to this in a second. So, pretty soon that one can fix up real nice place. Not too hot, not too cold. Like here, we sit here. My summer place is like that one. I call my summer place Ose Tahe To Peo Te. Means cool sleeping place. Other place, they call her Evening's Garden. Good time to fish that evening. Cool, not so hot. That evening's garden, like here, two human beings that one puts there. Call the man Adam. Call the woman Evening. Same as garden. So earlier I asked like what type of story it is. And I think to me it sounds like a creation story. That it is about a God creating the universe, creating the stars, the moon, the animals. But did that last section add to that? What specific story is the narrator telling? What specific creation story is he telling here? The question then would be, who's Evening? And he just introduced there's someone named Evening now. He said there's someone named Adam or Adam. And he says there's a place called Evening's Garden. Now these might not be the names that we're used to, but based on the context clues of it seeming like a creation story with an evening, Adam, Evening's Garden, to me this sounds like the story of Adam and Eve and the Garden of Eve. Excuse me, the Garden, I almost said Garden of Evening again, but the Garden of Eden. So he seems to be telling the story of Adam and Eve to these anthropologists. We'll continue. Okay. She, Evening, looks around her garden. Pretty nice place, that one. Good tree, good deer, good rock, good water, good sky, good wind, good grocery store, television. Adam and Evening real happy. Those ones. Clothes, those, ha 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 ha. But they're pretty dumb then. New, Have some tea, stay awake. Good parts here soon. That woman, Evening, she's curious, nosy, that one. She walk around the garden and she look everywhere. Look under rock, look in grass, look in sky, look in water, look in tree. So, she find that tree, big one. Not like now that tree. This one have lots of good things to eat. Have potato, have pumpkin, have corn, have berries, all kind. Too many to say now. This good tree also have some miso. White men call them apples. The first woman look at the tree with the good things and she gets hungry. Make a meal in her head. Leave that miso alone. Someone says that. Leave that miso alone. Leave that tree alone, the voice says. That. Go away someplace else to eat. That one, God. Hello, he's back. Hey, says Evening, this is my garden. You watch out, says that one. Pretty loud voice, sort of shout. Bad temper, that one. Maybe like Harley James. Bad temper, that one. Always shouting. Always with pulled down, mean look. Sometimes Harley come to town, drive his truck to town, gets drunk, drives back to that house. That one goes to town, gets drunk, come home. That one beat his wife. His wife leave, goes back up north. Pretty mean one, that one. You boys know Harley James. Nobody there to beat up now. Likes to shout, that one. Maybe you want to hear about Billy Frank and the Dead River Pig. Boy, my friend says, I can taste those miso. These boys pretty excited about those miso, I think. Okay, I says. Keep your eyes open. Look around. Evening, that one says. Look pretty good, these. So she eat one. That miso. Boy, not bad. Real juicy, that one. She's generous, Evening. Good woman, that one. Brings miso to Adam. I think he's busy then, writing things down. All the animals' names he writes somewhere. I don't know. Pretty boring, that. Deer come by, say Mialu. Elk come by, says Papeo. Blue flowerberry come by, says Slimta. Adam not so smart like Evening. That one thinks blue flowerberry is an animal, maybe. Dog come by, say Amapo. Raven come by, says Nekota. Coyote comes by, says Klika. Snail come by, says E2. Squirrel come by, says Quetha. Owl come by, says Batipota. Weasel come by, says Sothani so. Rabbit come by, says Klaku. Flint come by, says Sosika. Fish come by, says Lapo. Crayfish come by, says Tling. Beaver come by, says Kanyada. Boy, all worn out. All those animals come by. Coyote come by maybe 4, maybe 8 times. Get dressed up, fool around, says Pistopa, says Hotago, says Wohoiki, says Kahoha. Ha ha ha. Tricky one, that coyote. Walks in circles, sneaky. That Adam, not so smart. Like Harley James, white man, those. Evening, she'd be Indian woman, I guess. So to quickly pause. At this point, how is the narrator's version of this story different than original? So if you have an understanding of the original kind of Adam and Eve, Garden of Eden story, how is the narrator's story different? He's made some adjustments. He's gone on some tangents. He's added some other things in. I think, how is it different? What stands out the most to me is the specific like indigenous names for the animals, the inclusion of this coyote story, the fact he talks about Harley James for a while, that he kind of maybe almost goes back to the Dead River Pig story for a bit, that it seems to kind of weave around the original story. And he continues. Evening come back. Hey, she says, what are all these coyote tracks come around in a circle? Not so smart, Adam. Pretty hungry, though. Here, Evening, says Evening. Miso. Real juicy. So they do. Adam, that one eat 3 miso. Adam, says Evening, I better get some more miso. Pretty soon that one, God come by. He's pretty mad. You ate my miso, he says. Don't be upset, says Evening. That one, first woman. Many more miso back there. Calm down, watch some television, she says. But they're upset, and that one says that Evening and Adam better leave that good place. Garden, Evening's garden. Go somewhere else. Just like Indian today. Evening says, okay, many good places around here. Adam, that one wants to stay. That fellow, God, white man, I think, he says, you go too. You ate those miso, my miso. Adam is unhappy. He cry 3 times, ho, ho, ho. I only ate 1, he says. No, says that God fellow, I see everything. I see you eat 3 of my miso. I only ate 2, says Adam, pretty quick, that one. Throw him out. Ha. Throw him out on his back, right on those rocks. Ouch, 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 that one says. Evening, she have to come back and fix him up before he is any good again. All right. There is also a Jupupi. White men call him Snake. Don't know what kind. Big white one, maybe, I hear. Maybe black, something else. I forget this part. He lives in tree with miso. That one try to get friendly with Evening, so she stick a miso in his mouth, that one. Crawl back into tree, have trouble talking, hiss, 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 hiss. Maybe he's still there. Like that dead river pig and Billy Frank lose his truck. So, Evening and Adam leave. Everybody else leave too. A tree leave too. Just God and Jupopi together. Adam and Evening come out here, have a bunch of kids. So at this point, the narrator, he's mostly done the story. He's mostly done this kind of Garden of Evening or the Garden of Eden story. And I want us to pause and think, what would these anthropologists think of this story? We can probably assume they've heard it before. They've heard the original Garden of Eden story. But what would they think of this telling? Like if you imagine this room, sort of the summer place by the river, this, I assume, elder is telling this story, and the three anthropologists are standing around with their tape recorder. What's going through their head at this point? What are they maybe assuming, or what do they think? Continues. So that's all. It's ended. Boy, my friend says, better get some more tea. One good story, that one, my friend Napiao says. Those men push their tape recorders, fix their cameras. All of those ones smile, nod their head around, look out window, shake my hand, make happy noises, say goodbye, see you later, leave pretty quick. We watch them go. My friend, Napiao, put the pot on for some tea. I clean up all the coyote tracks on the floor. So my last question is about that last line. They finish the story. The anthropologists make happy noises and kind of, shuffle their way out of there quickly. And then as Napiao is making tea, the narrator says, I clean up all the coyote tracks on the floor. So the question I want to leave you with is, why are there coyote tracks on the floor? Now, I'll start by saying the literal interpretation would be, there was a coyote walking around there at some point. Let's not go down that road too far. We don't know exactly what's going on. I think we want to go down maybe a more figurative, maybe even like symbolic path. What would it mean for there to be coyote tracks on the floor? And I'll give you maybe some evidence. If you're thinking, maybe the coyote tracks mean this, or maybe the coyote tracks mean that, we need some evidence to support that analysis. So, earlier, if you remember the story of the coyote had tricked Adam. The coyote, as Adam is naming all the animals, the coyote keeps changing and, tricking him and walking around maybe 4, maybe 8 times, gets dressed up and gets all of these different names. Like Adam named the coyote 4, 8 times. And the narrator said, tricky one, that coyote, walks in circles. He'd also been telling these anthropologists throughout the story, I'm not sure, maybe you noticed it at the time, but he keeps telling, guys, hey, sit, have some tea, stay awake. Later, he says, have some tea, stay awake. He repeats it a few times throughout the story. He's telling them, hey guys, stay awake, stay awake. And what really stood out to me is, especially on my rereads of this, is at the beginning he says, okay, I'll start telling this once upon a time big story. He says, you fellows keep listening. Kind of like that stay awake, have some tea, stay awake, keep listening, keep up. And he also tells them, watch the floor. So right from the very beginning of his story, he's told them, hey guys, listen closely, stay awake, listen closely, stay awake, and keep your eyes on the floor. What does that mean? So if the story ends with coyote tracks being around the floor, who's the coyote? Who's the coyote in this story? We have a few options. There's only 5 people in the room. There's 3 anthropologists, Nat Piao, and our narrator. Who is playing the role of coyote in this story? And I think to figure that out, you got to think about the original story of Coyote tricking Adam. And think about the story that we just read. One Good Story, that one. Who is the trickster in this version of the story? So there's a couple questions to think about to start your analysis of One Good Story, that one by Thomas King. I hope you enjoyed it.